All right, y'all. Take a breath. Look around your space. If you're standing, sit. If you're sitting, settle deeper. You're here now, and this is the Burn Barrel. This isn't polished, isn't sponsored. This is a circle, a front porch, a gut check. And today we're going to talk about what it means when the thing that was supposed to save us starts starving us instead. But first, how are you? Really, how are you? Because I know you're tired. We all are. We've got folks working doubles, borrowing change, and still coming up short because of these damn electric bills. So today we're going to walk through what a co op is really supposed to be. We'll keep it simple, grounded, and if you've never thought about board meetings or capital credits, don't worry. You're not behind, you're right on time. Let's start with the basics because if we don't understand the bones of this thing, we'll never know where it started rotting. And to do that, we need to step back into one of the hardest times in Appalachian history, the Great Depression. Between 1929 and the late 1930s, money was nearly impossible to find. Jobs vanished, and here in Appalachia, it was even tougher than in most places. Back then, nearly 80% of homes in these mountains didn't have electricity, and many didn't have running water. People traded goods instead of money, and families relied entirely on what they could grow, hunt, or make with their own hands. Yet somehow, even in this struggle, Appalachians held tightly together. Families spent long, hard days working side by side, growing food, sewing clothes, repairing roofs. Neighbors pitched in to raise barns, fix fences, and help one another survive. What they lacked in money, they made up for in community. It was during this difficult period, the Great Depression, that cooperatives took root across America. In 1935, President Franklin D. Roosevelt established the Rural Electrification Administration, REA, as part of his New Deal. Why? Because private power companies refused to run electricity to rural communities, believing it wasn't profitable enough. The government stepped in and provided low cost loans, enabling rural areas, including right here in Appalachia, to form their own electric cooperatives. So, what exactly is a cooperative or a co op? Simply put, it's a business owned and operated by the people it serves. For Appalachian families, these electric co ops meant finally getting electricity into their homes. Electricity brought cleaner drinking water, safer homes, and fewer endless chores. Most importantly, it gave families something invaluable: more time. Time to sit around a table, tell stories, visit neighbors, and simply enjoy being together. But today, look where we are. We might have modern comforts, but are we really better off? Back then, families spent their days together. Now, parents are traveling hours away, working extra shifts or multiple jobs just to keep the lights on. Children spend their days with daycare workers or screens rather than grandparents and neighbors. It feels like we've traded away our community, our closeness, for convenience we can't even afford. I call this the Great Community Depression because even though we've got more stuff, our relationships, the things that truly feed our souls, are breaking apart. We're starved for communion. And communion, to be clear, isn't about church. It's about connection. It's about safety you feel sitting with neighbors on a porch, sharing laughter or tears, knowing you're not alone. So, this is why we're here today, to talk plainly about how we got here and what we've lost and how to find our way back. So, now that we've laid out where we've been and how we're going to get here, let's talk plainly about what we're going to do next: our movement. We've spent enough time quietly sharing our stories behind closed doors, whispered conversations, and private pain. We know exactly what's been happening. It's crystal clear. We're past the point of needing more proof that something's deeply wrong. We've got plenty of it. If you have evidence, bills, emails, or documents you'd like to add to our growing case, please email them directly to me at brandon@restoringwhatwaslost.com. We're gathering all of this together and finding the best lawyer we can to take on this fight. You don't have to share your pain publicly anymore. Let us carry that weight. Now it's time to shine a clear light on the people at the center of this crisis. The people who chose careers where transparency, honesty, and public trust are not just nice words, they are the law. These folks, board members, executives, officials, hold rules that legally require them to openly disclose their actions and personal interests, rules designed explicitly to prevent enriching themselves at the expense of mismanaging resources meant to serve our community. It's time their stories are told clearly, truthfully, and publicly, so we can all see exactly how and why the system that is built to serve us started starving us instead. Since today is the annual meeting, let's take a clear eyed look at what our board has been up to when it comes to executive pay. These decisions about who gets paid and how much come straight from the boardroom. We're going to share with you the actual salaries approved by Grayson RECC board in 2024. These aren't opinions, these are cold, hard numbers. After we lay out these facts, we'll compare them to what most families around here earn in a year, the median household income. Why does this matter? Because our board members are supposed to represent us, not set themselves or the executives apart from us. They're accountable for deciding if executive salaries and benefits truly reflect our community's economic reality and values. But when we put their decisions side by side with our daily lives, your lives, the gap couldn't be clearer. Let's look plainly at these figures together. Let's understand how far our worlds have become, and why today, at their annual meeting, it is more important than ever to demand accountability, transparency, and real change from our board. Let's begin with the numbers. Here's exactly what the Grayson RECC board approved for executive compensation in 2023, the most recent year on record. Bradley Cherry, President and CEO, $124,126 base pay, plus $61,916 in additional benefits. Brian Poling, Manager of Technical Services, $112,667 salary, plus $57,768 in additional benefits. Kyle Clevenger, Manager of Operations, $114,310 plus $57,239 in additional benefits. Christopher Mosier, Maintenance Lead Man, $122,068 plus $37,041 in additional benefits. Michael L. Martin, Assistant Manager of Operations, $112,618 plus $45,071 in additional benefits. Michael R. Blevins, Maintenance Lead Man, $111,542 plus $48,040 in additional benefits. These are not future projections. These are not rumors. These are IRS certified facts from Form 990 they were legally required to file. And here's something worth noting. Grayson's annual meeting is always held in early May, just days before the federal deadline to file next year's compensation disclosures. That means every time members come together to ask questions, the real answers, the real numbers, are just barely out of reach. Coincidence? Maybe. But after a while, patterns start to speak louder than words. Now let's put that into context. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income right here in Carter County is about $38,000 per year. That means some of the top executives at our electric cooperative make more than 4 times what the typical family in our community earns annually. And remember, every dollar that funds these salaries and benefits comes directly from us, every single member paying a monthly electric bill. So today, as the Grayson RECC holds its annual meeting, the real question becomes, do these salaries reflect responsible leadership and genuine representation, or do they show a deep disconnect from the struggles of the families they serve? Because when we talk about accountability, this is what it looks like. It's asking openly whether the board decisions truly reflect our community values, or if it's time for new faces, new policies, and genuine return to the cooperative spirit. All right, let's pause here for a moment. We've covered a lot, and I want to make sure we're clear and grounded before we move forward. Think about everything we've talked through today. We've revisited our roots, seen how Appalachians found strength and community during the Great Depression. We've explored how co-ops were meant to serve us, to bring us closer, not to tear us apart. And we faced the hard reality of what's happening today, looking at cold, hard numbers that show exactly where our money, your money, is going. So let me check in with you right now. Are you seeing the power we actually hold here? Do you realize how much say we truly have? The truth is, this situation exists because profits are being made on your back, your labor, your struggle, your sacrifice. But it but it's also true that we, as members of this community, allowed it to happen, not because we're weak or because we didn't care, but because somewhere along the way, we stopped having real communion. We stopped checking in on one another. We stopped holding folks accountable for the power they held over our assets, our resources, and our futures. But here's the good news. We're waking up. Communion is returning. Accountability is returning. And today we are starting to understand exactly how powerful we can be when we stand together and clearly demand change. So now that we've checked in and see clearly the power we hold together, let's strengthen that power even further. Let's talk about the actual laws protecting us, the laws outside our local co-op bylaws, laws every cooperative in Kentucky has to follow. First and foremost, as members of an electric cooperative, we're protected under Kentucky Revised Statutes, especially Chapter 279, the chapter that governs rural electric cooperatives. Here are a few key protections you should know clearly. Democratic control. Members have the legal right to elect and remove board members through democratic voting. The board's accountability starts and ends with you. If they're not doing their job transparently, Kentucky law clearly states you have the right to vote them out. Transparency and access to information. Members have the legal right to review cooperative financial records, meeting minutes, and detailed information about board decisions affecting the co-op. You have the legal right to know exactly how your money is being spent and why. Nonprofit and cooperative purpose. Electric co-ops must operate on a nonprofit basis, meaning any excess revenues must be returned to members as capital credits, not pocketed by executives. Co-ops exist to serve members, not enrich executives or board members. The law clearly supports this. Fiduciary duties of directors. Co-op board members have the clear and legal obligation called fiduciary duty to act solely in members' best interests. This includes avoiding conflicts of interest and managing resources prudently. When board members fail this duty, members have legal grounds for action. Members' right to call special meetings. If the board refuses transparency or accountability, Kentucky law clearly allows members to collectively call special meetings to demand answers and action. If normal channels aren't working, the law gives you clear steps to force accountability. These aren't just good ideas, they're laws. They clearly state your right, your power, and your protections as a cooperative member. Understanding them isn't just empowering, it's essential. It means we have a path forward, protected by law, to demand real accountability and meaningful change. Today at the annual meeting, and every day moving forward, we carry these rights with us clearly and proudly, because the law is on our side, as long as we are brave enough to use it. Knowing these laws mean nothing if we don't enforce them, and accountability isn't abstract. It has faces and names. So let's clearly name who we're talking about. Let's talk about Don Combs. He was the manager of finance and accounting, the man who handed out employee benefit forms, who explained our co-op's health insurance behind closed doors. He knows exactly who's getting what coverage and who's getting cash instead. And let's talk about Kyle Clevenger, manager of operations. He's not just signing off on work reports. He's got his own sons, Zach and Kevin Clevenger, listed on contracted crews assignments with outside companies like Pike, working jobs funded directly through the co-op. Think about that. Kyle Clevenger chooses which crew we pay to do the work, often bypassing our co-op's own skilled hotline employees, workers we've already paid for. Instead, he's routing that work and those dollars directly to companies employing his family. That's not just cozy, that's a clear pipeline. It's an advantage regular members never get because we're not in those closed door meetings. We're not deciding who gets lucrative assignments. So if you're wondering who holds the answers about executive insurance, look to Don Combs. If you're wondering how families' names keep showing up on the contracted payroll, look to Kyle Clevenger. You can't make 6 times the median income and call yourself a public servant. That's not service. That's modern day royalty funded by our electric bills. And yet, every month, folks in these haulers are scraping change, selling scrap metal, and skipping medicine just to keep the lights on. Not to build a better future, just not to get cut off. This is why we are here, to pull the story out of the dark, to tell the truth loud enough that even those trying to hide behind closed doors can't pretend not to hear. And when we start speaking up and we start asking real questions, calling out names and numbers, you know what happened? They responded. Not openly at a meeting, not clearly through formal statements, but in Facebook comments. Let's be clear, because these aren't anonymous folks on the sidelines. These are people directly benefiting from the current system. Cindy Green Clevenger, married to Kyle Clevenger, the manager of operation, initially told us our efforts were going nowhere. Then, when we pointed out her direct connection to leadership, she shifted her tone. Suddenly, she was just offering helpful contacts and claiming she was tired of the high bills like the rest of us. Then there's Don Combs, the former manager of finance of Greg. He called our community concerns pathetic, accused us of ignorance, and dismissed our very real struggles as misunderstanding of science and math. When pressed further, Don claimed he had no ties with Grayson Rural Electric or the city, despite decades of documented involvement. Think clearly about that. People at the heart of this crisis publicly dismissing your lived experience as ignorance, as misunderstanding, as your own fault. But their defensiveness reveals something crucial. They hear us. They know we're watching, and they're uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable because accountability is finally arriving at their doorstep, clearly and openly. This isn't gossip. This is transparency. This is accountability. And these comments, these public dismissals, they aren't silencing us. They're proving exactly why our voices need to grow louder. Because if our co-op truly belongs to us, then it's our job, our right, to speak truthfully about exactly who benefits, who decides, and who pays the price. So today, when you walk into that meeting, know exactly who you're standing with and clearly understand who's been standing against you all along. So here we are, looking plainly at a system built on failure, a system designed from its roots to leave rural communities last in line, the last to get electricity, the last to get clean water, the last to get basic dignity. But co-ops were supposed to change all that. They were built to be different, by us, for us. They weren't just supposed to bring electricity to Appalachia. They were supposed to bring fairness, transparency, and dignity. But somewhere along the line, that mission got blurred. Instead of protecting us from old, broken systems, our co-ops started mirroring them, rewarding insiders, building wealth for executives, and forgetting the very families they promised to serve. This isn't just about electricity anymore. It's about what's decent, what's right. It's about whether we stand for something different here in these mountains. Because when the thing that was meant to shield us starts to exploit us, we don't just lose money, we lose faith. So let's be clear. This isn't an attack on electricity workers or linemen. This is a call out of a system that claims fairness while quietly reinforcing the same inequality, the same family dynasties, the same backdoor advantages it was created to defeat. Today, right now, we're faced with a choice. Will we allow our co-op to be another failing system built on secrecy and favoritism, or will we demand something better, something clear, transparent, and truly accountable? We could choose a path back to decency. We can build a cooperative that honors the roots from which it grew, where community matters more than connections, where integrity means more than income, where access isn't just about electricity, but about fairness, dignity, and real representation. That's the cooperative we were promised, and that's exactly what we're going to rebuild together right here around this fire in this circle of truth. So here's what happens now. Today is Thursday, May 8th. The annual meeting is at 5 p.m. Now, they made sure we don't have a formal chance to voice our grievances at the meeting, but our numbers can speak louder than a microphone ever could. I'll be on Main Street protesting all day long, and if you can, join me. Stand with us. Even if it's just a drive-by honking your horn in support, make sure they know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are done being quiet. And next week, right here on the Burn Barrel, we'll take our next step forward. We're launching another petition, but this one isn't going to Frankfurt or even Washington. This one's headed straight to Greg, with a clear message and a name attached, because accountability isn't just a concept, it's personal. If you're ready to be a part of the revolution in rural power, please like this podcast, follow our page, leave a comment. Share this circle, this fire, this fight with someone else who needs it. Now, before we close, I want to share a message from a supporter. This person reached out, someone who isn't even a member of our co-op currently, and asked how they could help. They asked if they could donate to our cause. And up to this point, I've held back from asking for donations. because I wanted this movement to be pure action, pure truth. But this battle has grown too big for any one of us alone. It's clear now. We need organization, we need resources, we need each other. So, yes, this supporter and anyone else listening, if you feel called to give, you can absolutely donate to help us organize, to strengthen our movement, to keep fighting. Because make no mistake, this isn't close to over. We're just getting started.